Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 7 of the best tank cleaners that you can get for your aquarium. So a lot of the time, particularly beginners, I do think that people do get confused when they are talking about cleaner fish or tank cleaners. And a lot of the time, these people think that you can just throw a cleaner fish into your aquarium and that will just keep your tank clean forever. And that these cleaner fish don't need any specific care at all. They can just live off the waste in your aquarium. But that is obviously false. I mean, these species are living and you do need to give them their own special care, and your aquarium can never stay 100% clean. You obviously do need to do maintenance on the filters, the gravel, everything in your aquarium does need to be cleaned from time to time. But with all that being said, I guess let's just jump straight into today's video with the first fish on our list. So as for the first fish on our list today, we have a super cool little catfish. We have Corydoras Catfish. So Corydoras Catfish are obviously just like a super cool little aquarium fish. I mean, they're so peaceful and they're super interesting, and they come in a variety of different colors and sizes and patterns. But basically, the reason that these guys are on the list today is because they will actually keep the water moving in your aquarium. So a lot of the time, if you don't have bottom dwelling fish, you will notice a lot of sediment and debris builds up just above your gravel or sand. And what these guys will do is, just by them swimming over the gravel and sifting through the sand, they will actually kick all of this debris up into the water column. And that obviously makes it a lot easier for the filter to suck up this debris. And obviously in your filter, you have all sorts of beneficial bacteria which help break down the deadly bacteria in the fish waste and stuff like that. Another thing that these guys do is, obviously they go around the bottom and they pick up any sort of food that your fish at the top don't eat. So if you have them in a community aquarium and you do overfeed, then these guys will just go around like little vacuums and just eat every little bit of food up. But in saying that, you do definitely need to feed these guys as well. So they will definitely eat like leftover food, but you do need to provide them with their own diet, just because obviously bottom dwelling fish are the last fish in the aquarium to get food. So a lot of the time when you put food in your aquarium, all the top dwelling fish will eat it and there'll be none left when it finally gets down to the bottom for the cories. But besides all that, Corydoras are super peaceful fish. They can pretty much go with anything besides like cherry shrimp and really big fish, as well as like African cichlids and other mean fish like that. But as for tropical fish, these guys can practically go with anything. They're completely harmless. They're not gonna like attack your fish or anything, and they'll sort of just mind their own business. And they're also super easy to care for, so they require practically no special care. Like, you do just need to feed them, and that's basically it. But yeah, if you are looking for a good tank cleaner for your aquarium, I would highly recommend taking a look at Corydoras Catfish. So as for the next fish on our list, we have another super common, popular cleaner fish. We have bristlenose. So bristlenose are obviously a sucking mouth catfish, so they will eat a lot of like the algae that grows on your surfaces in your aquarium, particularly your glass. And a lot of the time, people will actually strictly get bristlenose just to eat the algae off their glass and keep their tanks looking nice and clean. Bristlenose, I think, get the worst of it. So a lot of the time, people just like get bristlenose, particularly beginners. Like, obviously not all beginners are gonna do this, but I've found that a lot of them do. Basically, people just get bristlenose, throw them into their aquarium, and a lot of the time it's a really small aquarium, just because they're obviously a beginner. You're not gonna start out with like a 3,000 gallon tank. But basically, they get these bristlenose, they throw them in there and they don't feed them, just because they do think that the bristlenose can like literally just live off the algae. But obviously bristlenose can't. They do need to eat a lot of food to grow properly, so you do need to feed them other things like algae wafers, frozen foods, sinking pellets, and also like green beans and like zucchini and stuff like that. But yeah, besides all that, much like the Corydoras, they're super easy to care for and they're super peaceful. So these guys can actually go with the mean fish like African cichlids and stuff, as long as they are of a decent size. And they can actually go with things like cherry shrimp as well, just because they're not really gonna eat cherry shrimp. They don't really have a mouth designed for that, so there's no worries there. You can literally keep them with any sort of fish. But yeah, bristlenose catfish or bristlenose plecos are another great cleaner fish, and I would highly recommend them for your aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another super unique fish. We have coolie loaches. So coolie loaches are like a really cool little snake looking thing, and they sort of just wiggle around the bottom of your aquarium. And what this wiggling does is, much like the Corydoras, it just kicks all of like the debris up into the water column, and it makes it easier for the filter to suck out. So these guys won't actually eat like algae or anything. They will definitely eat leftover food, and sometimes they will actually attack like little pest snails if you have those in your aquarium. But besides that, they're super easy to care for. They eat practically the same things as like Corydoras catfish. So they'll eat frozen foods, pellets, live foods, and pest snails. Now, the only downside to these guys is they literally like never come out. So I've had these guys before. I don't keep them anymore just because they're like really boring to keep, but they literally just go and like hide all day, and sometimes they'll come out at night, but most of the time they won't, just because they're like really lazy. But you will notice that if you do have coolie loaches in your aquarium, there'll be a lot less debris around the bottom, and there'll be a lot more debris in the filter, I guess. But yeah, with that being said, coolie loaches are another great cleaner fish to add into your aquarium to help you keep your water column clean. Moving on to the next thing on our list, it's not actually a fish, it's not an invertebrate, it's not like a snail or anything, it's actually live plants. So obviously in your aquarium you have a cycle known as the nitrogen cycle, and that's really where the plants come in to help a lot to keep your aquarium clean. So basically all of the leftover fish food and fish waste in your aquarium is a source of ammonia, and this ammonia will be broken down by aerobic bacteria through oxidation, and it will actually break down into nitrites. And then those nitrites will be broken down by aerobic nitrobacter bacteria, I'm pretty sure it's called, and those will be broken down into nitrates. And basically your plants actually use those nitrates to help grow and flourish in your aquarium. Without those plants, the nitrates can build up in your aquarium, and your fish can get ammonia burn in the gills and all sorts of stuff like that. So live plants are definitely, in my opinion, a vital thing to have in your aquarium to help you keep your water clean. So not only will they help with the nitrogen cycle, but they'll also help minimize the algae in your water as well. So live plants use all sorts of extra nutrients that build up in your water to help grow, but so does algae. So if you have live plants in there using up all those excess nutrients, your algae won't actually have a chance to grow. And if you already have algae in your water, all of the nutrients will be stripped by the live plants just because they're a lot better at that than algae is. So a lot of the time the algae will just die off. Also, live plants are just like really cool to have in your aquarium. I think an aquarium without live plants is like just not it whatsoever. Like, it's not cool. And if you look behind me, I literally keep live plants in all of my aquariums. I try and keep my tanks as simple as possible. So I literally just have like live plants, water, a filter, a light, and fish. And that's basically the 5 main things I try and keep in my aquariums. And I mean, it works super well. All my water stays really clean. All my fish are super healthy. And I find it's just like a really easy way to keep fish. But yeah, live plants are definitely a vital thing to add into your aquarium if you want your water to stay cleaner for longer. Moving on to the next thing on our list, we have a really cool little invertebrate. We have cherry shrimp. So I think I've literally talked about cherry shrimp for like every single video on my channel, so I'll try and make this part quick. But basically cherry shrimp, they eat a lot of algae from surfaces in your aquarium, and they'll eat all sorts of leftover food and biofilms that grow throughout your aquarium. So I would highly recommend keeping cherry shrimp in any nano aquarium, whether you have like rasboras or tetras or endlers or really small fish like that. Just because if you have enough plants, your cherry shrimp will be able to stay out of the way of your larger fish, and they'll also be able to clean up a lot of the excess food that is left by your other fish as well. Additionally, they'll pick all sorts of stuff out of your sponge filters if you have them in there, and they'll take all sorts of stuff off your plants, and they're just a super great little thing to have in your aquarium. They're literally just like a little ant. They just sort of like run around and nibble on all sorts of different things. And obviously they're super colorful. They're like a really great thing to add into your aquarium, just to add like an extra layer of interest. And I think I've said this before, but I just think everybody should have cherry shrimp no matter what. I mean, they're like really cheap, really easy to look after. They don't require a lot of food, and they're just cool. But yeah, with that being said, cherry shrimp are another great cleaner fish that you should definitely add into your aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, well, actually no, moving on to the next thing on our list, we have something that I like kind of hate, but also kind of like. We have snails. So snails can be like super pesky little things. They're kind of gross. They're just like really slimy and just sort of walk around, well, not just like slide around your aquarium all day. And they aren't really interesting whatsoever. I mean, you can get some cool ones like ramshorn snails and rabbit snails, but most of the time they literally just sit in your aquarium and take over. Good thing is though, they're super easy to get, and pretty much every time you buy plants, they're gonna be littered with snail eggs. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get snails at some point if you have an aquarium. But what these guys do is they'll eat all sorts of leftover foods. They'll eat dead fish if fish die in your aquarium, which they probably shouldn't be, but if they are, if you have plenty of snails in there, those guys will really quickly eat those dead fish up. And they will also eat all sorts of like surface algae. They'll actually eat pretty much any algae, I find. On top of that, they're super easy to care for. I mean, these are like the only thing that I think you can throw in your aquarium and literally forget about. But yeah, snails are just a great thing to have in there just to help keep your water clean. Obviously they will like produce a lot of waste, but they will do more good than bad in my opinion. Moving on to the final fish on our list, I could have put like 70 other different species instead of this fish, but there's something really unique about this fish that I think really helps keep your tank clean, and these fish are spiny eels. So spiny eels are basically just a big coolie loach, except they're a lot cooler in my opinion. And the reason I've thrown these guys on the list is because number one, they're a bottom dwelling fish. They'll kick up all that debris around the top layer of substrate in your aquarium. But also, if you have a sandy aquarium or like a really fine gravel, these guys will actually bury in it. And a lot of the times, just like their head will be sticking out. So by burying in it, they're literally just constantly turning over all of this sand. And you'll notice if you have any aquarium with a spiny eel in it, your substrate should just be like crystal clear. So that's why I've chosen these guys. I mean, they're a super cool looking fish. They're relatively cheap and they're relatively easy to find here in Australia. And obviously they help keep your water clean. They're also easy to feed. You literally feed these guys like live foods or frozen foods. I find they don't really like pelleted foods or flake foods and stuff like that. But frozen foods are a great thing, a great staple for them. But yeah, spiny eels are another great fish that you can get for your aquarium to help keep your water clean, and I definitely would recommend them. But with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I helped you guys find a new cleaner for your aquarium. If you haven't done so already and you did enjoy today's video, please make sure to go down and subscribe. And while you're down there, smash the like button and comment your thoughts on today's video. Also, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down in the description and click on the link to my website. I launched it a few weeks ago and it's got all sorts of live fish, botanicals, and other aquarium essentials on it. And I would really appreciate if you could go check it out. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed and I'll see you all in that next video.